Good afternoon, and welcome to episode 36 of the Ripper Podcast.
Look, I'm not saying you should play college football till you're 28 years old, but it does make for an entertaining story and a good quarterback.
Let's kick this thing off. Welcome inside the Ripper Podcast. My name is Ethan Rosen. So episode 46 here on the show. Elsen Gratz, he's back. It's so good to see his face back in action. People are probably excited to not have to listen to me talk the entire time. They actually get some knowledge into their their ears instead of me just rambling on about stuff that I think I know. Elsen, thanks for joining us. How's Tulsa treating you so far? About a month into school.
Glad to be back. It's midterm week, so I'm battling out here, but hopping on the podcast, a great way to relieve some of that stress. It'll be over pretty quick, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a fun one planned. Obviously, we're bringing this new 2-episode-a-week schedule with a different format, focusing on the local sports. We're going to start with Friday Night Lights. Then we'll talk some of the local teams. Then we're bringing back the Daily Draft segment, which I'm super excited about. Elsen and I will be going back and forth on that. Then we're going to be talking MLB divisional round. Big day of games today. I believe all 4 games are happening today, so it's a big day for that. We'll go college football, my top 25, and then we'll preview week 6 and do our Sunday picks, and then just like that, it'll be over. So it's gonna fly by. Let's get started right away in the Friday Night Lights preview. It is week 8 already, Elsen, which is absolutely crazy to think about. So far, we're doing okay. 21-8 as our record right now. I think my goal is to be able to finish. We got 2 weeks left of the regular season, including week 8. My goal is to end up under 10 losses by the end of the regular season. Is that possible?
Oh, I would definitely say so. I am impressed with 21-8. That is a very strong record, in my opinion.
Yeah, we haven't made picks every week because we did have the Friday night tailgate, but right now we're averaging a loss a week. So I think on that pace, or I guess not quite because we've only technically picked 7, then 6, so not quite. But yeah, 21-8, I'm very impressed with. We went 3-2 the first week, so we've definitely made some upgrades. But week 8, a bit massive game of the week though. Monroe taking on Evansville. Evansville dropped a game to Delavan Darien, so that propels Monroe. This is a win. If this is a win for the Cheesemakers, they solidify another Rock Valley Conference title. If not, Evansville takes over the top place because they actually do have a better overall record than the Cheesemakers, whereas the Cheesemakers lost to both Lodi and Mount Horeb in their out-of-conference play. So absolute massive game there. With 2 weeks to go in the season, Monroe, with a win here, will solidify another Rock Valley Conference. Elsen, what kind of dominance is this right now from the Cheesemakers since they've joined the conference? It's been conference championships win after year.
It's unprecedented, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I think we could be looking at Cheesemakers as conference championships 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road.
That's a hot take. Let's hope so. That'd be amazing. Some other notable games. Prairie du Chien, a very good Prairie du Chien team, takes on New Glarus this week. Cuba City and Darlington, Blackhawk and Riverdale. Darlington and Blackhawk coming off of massive wins last week. And then Lancaster taking on Broadhead Judah. So a couple games there. We're taking 2 of the 4 additional local games. So we'll see how we do on that. Elsen, do we think that we survive and give ourselves a chance to stay under that 10-loss mark going into the last week of the season?
I do. It's going to be close, but picks keep getting better. And if I had to guess, I would say that we get there.
Yeah, continue learning each and every week. But massive game for the Cheesemakers taking in the Blue Devils of Evansville. That's going to be a fun one to watch. We'll recap that all next Monday on our weekly recap show. But let's kind of keep her moving here into the local sports. Green Bay Packers, big game taking on the Cardinals. Cardinals team that just beat the 49ers last week. A team that seems to be better than their record. Kyler Murray seems to be kind of getting these guys rolling. James Conner, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, a couple weapons for him offensively. The defense has been a struggle for them so far, but Jordan Love and the Packers, Jordan Love getting his first win as a starting quarterback this season. Malik Willis accounted for the other two. He looks to be kind of settling in. They coming off a win on the road against the Rams back at Lambeau. Also, what's the key to success here in this game?
These are two really hungry teams, and I think that Green Bay is going to move the ball really well in this one. You touched on the Cardinals' offense being disappointing this season. The tough reality is they don't really do anything well. They're bottom 5 in points allowed, bottom 5 in net yards per attempt allowed through the air, bottom 5 in rushing offense allowed. I think that that's going to give Matt LaFleur a lot of opportunities to scheme up the run game, which we know he does really well, but also get Jordan Love rolling. I think they're going to attack a really bad linebacker room. And would you agree that Jordan Love hasn't been quite everything that we'd expected so far this year?
Yeah, I talked about this on Monday when I was rambling on about with myself. So people are probably getting bored, but I did talk about how my question was: is Jordan Love living up to the contract? And there was a but to that statement because the Packers seamlessly were forced into that type of a contract because Jordan Love was doing his whole like the hold in type thing and just the way the market was, and you can't just let a quarterback like Jordan Love walk. So it seemed like they were kind of forced into that situation. The money that he got, Jordan Love just got his first win, not a very pretty one. It seems like he's missing a couple throws here and there. I wouldn't say he's lived up to it so far. We're kind of seeing a similar track like last year. The beginning of the season was a little shaky, got better as the season went on, and started to make some really good plays, high level plays that solidified him essentially kind of getting the status that he did this offseason. Um, I don't foresee Jordan Love being an issue going forward, but so far I would be disappointed as a Packers fan.
So far, I would agree. It's been a lot of sloppiness, a lot of missed throws off the back foot, bad decisions in the pocket, the ball heading into spots where it shouldn't be. This is, I think, a really revealing stat. 47.6 passer rating under pressure versus 102.9 when kept clean. Well, the Cardinals are bottom 5 in pressure rate. I think Love is going to have time. Watch out for Tucker Kraft to keep doing his thing against a not very strong linebacker room. I think the Packers are going to score a lot of points. But you touched on this being a really electric Cardinals offense. I think they're going to get theirs too. And I haven't checked the practice report. I don't even know if it's out yet today. But if Jair Alexander is not good to go for this one, I am worried about who we're going to stick on Marvin Harrison Jr. in particular.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think kind of going back to the Jordan Love expectations, and I noted on this last week or last on Monday, um, when Malik Willis was in, and they were 2-0 when Malik Willis was the starting quarterback. When he was in, the game plan was very solidified to running the ball. With doing that, obviously everybody on the offense knew what they wanted to do. Malik Willis was able to add himself with his legs and throw when they have to. And when you run the ball so much and the defense knows you're going to run the ball so much, it a surprise pass goes a long way. And when you have Jordan Love, I think that the game plan changes a little bit and it allows defenses to almost sit back and fool with the quarterback, which in turn obviously didn't exactly work for the defenses. But when like the Colts game example, for example, the Colts were not able to stop the run game, and essentially that's all they had to do was stop the run game. And now defenses have to they get to play around with the quarterback's head a little bit. They get to sit back in coverage, let him take underneath stuff, or force him to make risky throws, things like that. That's a little bit more that feeds into the defense a little bit more. It's just kind of an interesting perspective about the game plan strategy between the two quarterbacks and how that plays into a defense and why Malik Willis had so much success through his 2 weeks that he had and why Jordan Love struggled so far. But Jordan Love got his first win. This is going to be a fun matchup, like you said. A couple high-powered offenses. Packers defense, obviously a little bit better than last year, still struggling, but a Cardinal defense that's struggling. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game
I
at
agree.
Lambeau, early kick, which I think is how Packer fans kind of like it. I feel like Packers always get the early kick games. This could be a fun game to watch, and I'm excited for it, Elson.
A guy I think we need to step up is Rashawn Gary. Big expectations headed into the season. He started all 5 games, 6 pressures. We need more. He needs to be disrupting Kyler Murray, and I think that if he can do that, not give the Cardinals a ton of time to attack downfield, I think that the Packers can win this in a high-scoring shootout.
Yeah, love it. Let's keep her moving. The Bucks playing preseason. LeBron, Bronny, and the Lakers are going to be in town here at the Pfizer Forum tomorrow night, 7 p.m. tip-off. Question is, obviously in the last preseason game, I believe the Lakers actually have had 2 already, but in their last preseason game, Bron and Bronny both played. I don't know if he's going to play again this week, but I do. There's talks right now that I might be going to that game. And I mean, you can get I found $8 tickets. And if you get to
Really,
see LeBron play, I mean, how do you pass that up, Elson?
$8 for Bronny Jr., that is an awesome deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, working on trying to go to that game, but not sure if they're actually going to play. I would assume that they'll be in the building. I'm sure Bronny will play. Not sure if LeBron will play. But we'll see. We'll see. It should be a fun one. Lakers at Bucks. Maybe Giannis and Chris Middleton will play this week or in this game. They didn't play in the first preseason game for the Bucks, so we'll see.
You
See
think we
how that
see
goes. But
Giannis in this one?
what's that?
You think we see Giannis in this one?
I don't know. I actually really like the 3-game preseason. I think it's not too long, and I mean for compared to the length of their regular season, I think it's very good. I mean, when you think about the NFL, I think their preseason's too long. They have the 3 games compared to only 17 regular season games. So I don't know. I think that we'll see him at some point in the preseason, but I'm not 100% sure. We saw Dame. We saw Dame and
He was
Brooks.
good.
Yeah,
He looked the part.
and Bobby. Bobby played really well as well. So it'll be interesting to see some of those guys play, but we'll see. Let's get to some hockey. Chicago Blackhawks lost last night in the inaugural game for the Utah Hockey Club, 2-5. That score definitely does not reflect the type of game it was. In a way, it does. It was a 2-3 game, couple empty net goals, make that score look a lot worse. It was a nationally televised game, so I was able to watch most of it. First period for the Blackhawks, very embarrassing to say the least. Only one shot on net the entire first period. And that came in the first minute of the game. So Blackhawks didn't get anything going. They got a handful of power play opportunities. It looked like a peewee team trying to set up a power play. It was quite embarrassing. They ended up coming alive a little bit. A couple missed opportunities, maybe hitting the crossbar or different situations like that. But the 2 goals for the Blackhawks, both set up by Connor Bedard. You're going to see a lot of that. He's going to be the guy that makes a lot of these plays. But also, they got the Jets coming up on Friday. Did you catch any of this game on ESPN last night?
I didn't see this game. And look, I know that this is the local sports segment and we got a busy agenda ahead of us, but you got to tell me about the Utah Hockey Club. Who are
Sure.
these guys? And is that their permanent name?
So they are a relocation teams. They're not a brand new team. They were formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes.
Okay.
Uh, and they relocated. Arizona just kind of went out there that market. They were just kind of almost pushed them out the door. Their lease with their original stadium ran out, and then they ended up playing at Arizona State's hockey stadium for a year or two. I believe it was 2 years. They did actually Arizona State did just recently build a brand new stadium, so it's really nice, but it's tiny for NHL rink, and so that's where they were playing, and they were working on this rebuild. Utah was a very applicable market, and so they went there. That is their current name. I am not 100% sure if they have any intentions. I would assume they have intentions to formally get a mascot and a real name, but there were some names. They had other options on the board, like names like the Blizzard was a name. There was like the Utah
Commanders would be
something.
kind of on brand.
What's that?
Utah Commanders would be kind of on brand.
Yeah, I mean that'd be very fitting, right? But no, they actually had a couple. They had a handful of other like actual names that they could select from, and they decided to go with the hockey club. So I don't know if that's going to be um, a permanent name or what their decision is with that. But it was a crazy thing. They had like it was a whole day's worth of stuff. The facts that and they're still working some things out, but they literally turned that around like in a 6-month period to be able to have that work. And it's very impressive. So very good for Utah. It seemed like a very fun atmosphere. It seems like Utah fans are very happy to have a hockey team in town. So hats off to them. I think it's good for the NHL.
Big win in the opener, it sounds like. And hey, hockey club, they know exactly what they are. I think they're going places.
Yeah, very focused on business, you could say. Hey, the Badgers coming off one of their first blowout wins in a long time, a couple of years, I guess you could say. That's a long time for Badger fans, but they're taking on a Rutgers team that's very good. They just got beat by Nebraska last week. Early kick, Big Ten Network on the road for the Badgers. How do they get it done?
Badgers need a good performance. I think we saw some of the best stuff that we've seen from this Phil Longo offense thus far. I don't have the stats to prove it, but that feels like the biggest Badgers blowout in this new era. In fact, I'm almost certain that it is. Tawi Walker broke out 3 touchdowns. We need a repeat type of performance to match Kyle Monangai in this really good Rutgers offense. And we need to hold the point of attack on the defensive line because Rutgers will just run it at you over and over, and they will control the time of possession in the game script. That's what we're going to need. I think we need to keep it out of Braden Locke's hands as much as possible.
Yeah. Um, I think it was the first blowout in the new Luke Fickell era. I think the last one came like 2022, so that would have been still with Paul Chris, or it could have been Jimmy Leonard, I guess, at that point. But it came before Fickell came to town, so it was the first one. Obviously, Purdue's a pretty disappointing team so far this year. A lot of teams are doing that kind of a performance on them, but uh, I think we saw a lot. I think Phil Longo put together a pretty good game. I think a couple turnovers for Braden Locke, couple mistakes that we saw, but he still was able to perform and put up 300 plus yards, handful of touchdowns. But like you said, Tyree Walker, a lot of people liked him coming into the season. Oklahoma transfer, he looked great. Tyree Walker, breaking out. Luke Fickell said that he wants to go away from the running back by committee and get some featured guys. Ches Malusi taking some personal time allowed for Tawee to kind of be that guy. Darian Dupree's a guy. He's a true freshman that uh, everyone loves in Wisconsin. They think he's going to be phenomenal. He was kind of that second guy. Didn't do much. Didn't put up the phenomenal numbers, but he got the job done. Katie Akamelli, another guy who's going to get carries. So, running game was there. We want to see that running game be able to continue. I think it'll help Phil Longo kind of be comfortable doing that if we have a guy who he can trust with Tyree Walker, and I think he proved that he can, being that featured guy. So, this Badger team's proved a lot. Rutgers is a team looking to bounce back, kind of oppositely from the Badgers, who are looking to kind of continue rolling on a high level. So I think it makes for a fun game. This is a Rutgers team a lot of people are intrigued about. Um, Kind of a disappointing loss against Nebraska. They were on the road, so it's a tough environment to play in there. Um, but this is going to be a fun matchup. I think an early kick is kind of almost doesn't do it very much justice. But I think something that USC game, Elson, was just so disappointing for the Badgers. I mean, that was a game they had to win, or I mean, just because of their first half. They literally put that thing on a platter and handed it to them. I mean, it was horrible. But just to consider, if we would have beat USC, would be 4-1 coming into this game, possibly ranked with a win against USC. I mean, this would be a completely different conversation right now, where we'd be talking about propelling yourselves into a Big Ten Conference championship conversation with a win against USC, where now we're talking about how do we get to the next level.
It really felt like the Tyler Van Dyke injury and then getting ran out of the stadium by Alabama in the second half of that one. It felt like that took a lot of air out of the tires, just hit the ground flat against USC. Not a lot of answers in that one. But then to bounce back against Purdue, that was huge. We saw some good stuff offensively. I totally agree we need to stick with the ground game because I think this one's going to be decided by turnovers. Braden Locke, like you said, a couple of turnovers in this one against a very good Rutgers secondary, opportunistic. But if the Badgers can get pressure on Athan Kelly-Akmanis, the Rutgers quarterback, he'll put it up. He'll throw up that 50-50 ball that the Badgers can take away and start driving the other way with. I think that's the key to victory.
I think we're starting to see this Badger defense kind of come back into its own. It kind of took obviously a step back when Jimmy Leonard left, but it's starting to kind of get back to that Wisconsin defense that we're used to. I think like many Wisconsin fans, I think we would like to see Braden Locke be able to throw 20 to 30 times. Maybe not. I mean,
At
I would
most.
much rather have him. I would much rather have him have 200 yards and a touchdown with no interceptions than 350 yards with 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I would much rather keep the ball in our own hands, let the running game go to work, run that clock, have time of possession. I think that's how a lot of Wisconsin fans want. That's how we kind of used to play. I mean, 20 to 30 attempts might be a little generous from our old style, but I think it's still possible. And I think um, that's kind of where I think a lot of Badger fans want this team to go. And I think if they did that, they would probably be able to generate a little bit more success.
You don't have to give up the passing game per se. Just keep it short, keep it smart, control time of possession, and then use the running game as a good change of pace and rack up those yards.
Yeah, absolutely. Elson, let's get into the daily draft. Talking a little college football. I'm super excited to bring this back. I can't even lie. The daily draft here, where Elson and I are going to go back and forth. We used to do this with our special guests. We had 3 hosts as well, so it made for a little bit more entertaining. But we'll get to that point. But Elson and I, 4 rounds today. Topic of concern is the best college football rivalries. And Elson, how do we want to decide the draft order? Should I just pull up a random number generator on my phone, see who gets it?
You got a coin on you?
Do I have a
Do it the
coin
old-fashioned way.
I don't think I have a coin on me actually.
Oh, I got you.
Do you? All right, sweet. Pull out the coin flip. And with 2 people, do we want to do a snake or should we just go with the fixed style?
I think a snake.
Okay, let's still do a snake. Elson, flipping a coin. I'll call it in the air. If I get it right, I'll get the first overall pick. If I get it wrong, you get it. How's that sound?
Sounds good. This is going to go badly, by the way. There's no way I'm catching this. Here we go.
All right. Heads.
It is heads. So that means you get the first pick, correct?
Okay, so I am going with the first pick. I'm very happy with that. First pick. So just a little refresher before we get started how this works. Elson and I, it's a 4-round draft about the best college football rivalries. It's a snake draft, so I'll get a pick. Then Elson gets 2 picks, and then I get 2 picks, and we go back and forth until we go fulfill the 4 rounds.
Wait, no, you don't get 2 picks to start.
I get 1 pick to start, correct? Yes.
So
I'm going to get started. I'm going to take one for the country, and I'm going to say Army versus Navy.
That's a classic. It's hard to beat that, but I am happy you let me have Wisconsin versus Minnesota in the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. I think that's going to be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I think thinking about the market there, Elson, no doubt about it. You got your second pick here.
The more I think about it, the more I really like having the latter end of the snake here because I'm going to take the Iron Bowl Bama versus Auburn.
Versus Auburn. That's a couple of very, very good picks. It's nice only having to generate 8 options, but I feel like all 8 of my options are probably going to be taken. So that'll be interesting. I want to be kind of stuck with the last one. So Bama versus Auburn's off the board, Badgers versus Minnesota, and Navy versus Army. So I got 2 picks here. I think that the big game is going to be a fun one to take. Give me Ohio State and Michigan. I feel like that's a pretty good. I mean, that's always a massive game, week 13 every year.
I think that's a very solid pick, Big Ten.
And then I'm gonna go with a game that we're gonna see actually this weekend. Give me Oklahoma and Texas in the Red River rivalry. I think that's a fun one. I love that they play that at the State Fair, I believe. The Iron Bowl, is that what they call that?
I believe so. Well, you hit it with Red River rivalry. Oh, I'm not sure if that's the name of the venue though.
I believe that's what they call the actual rivalry game. I don't know. Let's see what ESPN has to say about it. ESPN calls it the Red River rivalry, which is a mouthful, by the way.
It is. Some triple alliteration there. Iron Bowl is Bama versus
Cotton Bowl. Cotton
Bowl.
Bowl.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Cotton Bowl. That's what they call it. Yep. Gotcha. They're saying the ticket prices of that game are absolutely wild.
I can imagine.
So, interesting there.
You hurt me with that pick because that was going to be mine, especially because it's one that we're going to see right this weekend. So I'm going to go after you a little bit. I'm going to take Notre Dame versus USC.
Yep.
Underrated rivalry. And then with my last pick, I believe You got to stick to the Midwest. You got to stick to the Mid-10. I'll take Michigan versus Michigan State.
There you go. Being a Notre Dame fan is interesting because with them being independent, they have rivalries with so many teams, and they're so historic. So they've been playing so much football. Like they have rivalries with teams like USC, Miami, Michigan, uh, Navy and Army. They have rivalries against both those teams. Like there's Florida State, like they have rivalries all over the place. It seems like they play a rivalry game just against teams that they want, which is the luxury of being an independent and not being stuck to a conference schedule. But very interesting there about how it just seems like they have so many rivalries. But Notre Dame versus USC is definitely a classic. I'm gonna take this one. I don't know if this has actually got a name, but it seems like in the last few years, last handful of years, that this rivalry, this has became a really good rivalry. We saw it a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna go Bama versus Georgia. I don't, like I said, I don't know if this is a real one, but it seems like this has became a real rivalry. This is they always put on a show every single time. We see it usually once in the regular season, once in the playoffs at some point. This is a fun one.
That one kind of confuses me too because I had it written down and it doesn't have a name because my understanding is that Bama fans don't really consider it a rivalry and Georgia fans don't really consider it a rivalry. But come on, it's obviously a rivalry. It's one of the best games played every single season, sometimes multiple times a season. I
Yeah.
think you're perfectly fine to pick it up at the end of this draft.
That's what I like to hear. That's a good draft. So just to recap, I took Army versus Navy, Ohio State versus Michigan, Oklahoma versus Texas, and Bama versus Georgia. Elson took Wisconsin versus Minnesota, Bama versus Auburn, Notre Dame versus USC, and Michigan versus Michigan State. So as always, the fan vote. This will be posted on our Instagram story. You can vote. Actually, it might just get a real post. We'll see. Um, but you can on our Instagram. We'll post that. You make the vote. The fan vote determines who wins, and we'll keep track of that going forward.
Can I
So
add
there you go.
Mississippi versus Miss State as an undrafted free agent rivalry?
Oh, there you go. A little honorable mention.
I would say that would be my next one up.
Okay, there you go. How about that? All right, there's our daily draft. The first one in a long time. I don't remember when the last time we did a daily draft was, but it feels good to kind of get back.
Been
And that
too
was fun.
long. It's good to get
Yeah,
back to it.
it's fun. It's a fun segment for sure. MLB divisional round update. Like I said, there's plenty of games going on. We already have one final. The Tigers beat the Guardians 3-0. Detroit leads that series 2-1. We got a game right now, Phillies and Mets. That is in the top of the third, no score. Mets currently lead that series 2-1. And then coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, Yankees and Royals. That series is tied 1-1. And then the nightcap, Dodgers, Padres. That series has been fun to watch so far. Padres up 2-1 over the Dodgers. I'm rooting for the Padres in this one. I hope that the Dodgers are gone after this first round.
I got to agree on the Dodgers take. This has just been a really fun week of baseball. It feels like all the series have been very evenly matched. We've had some nice high scoring games. We've had some nice defensive pitching battles. It's just been really nice, I think.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are kind of enjoying this one. I think we're seeing a couple teams, the Tigers, the Royals, the Guardians, that aren't necessarily, they're not the big market teams. I guess you could maybe throw the Brewers in there, but they made the playoffs recent time. But we're seeing a couple new teams strive. The Tigers and Royals both holding their own. And then we do see the powerhouses, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees. I know some of those big name players. I think this is fun. I think it's kind of interesting to have playoff games happening on a Wednesday at mid afternoon. It's kind of weird. But I don't know if I'm necessarily opposed to it. I think it's kind of an added intrigue. It's kind of like, oh, I mean, for me, leaving a class, let's check the score of this game. There's a game going on. I think that feeds into what the MLB does. A lot of people don't like that they have middle of the day games, but we saw it with the NHL opening night. There's a game that started, I think it was like a 1:30 local time start for St. Louis or something like that. Maybe for Seattle, I think maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of here for it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and I think it's part of the MLB identity.
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Like you said, it is part of the identity, longstanding tradition. And I wish you could flip on the TV when you're relaxing for the night and maybe watch a couple of games at once, that sort of thing. But then I also like say you're hitting the gym in the early evening, running on the treadmill, and you get to watch a game in front of you there. I like that. So pros and cons for both.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. MLB postseason gets a big thumbs up from us, and can't wait to be able to watch this one continue to unfold. Let's get into some college football, NFL football, and then we are out of here, rolling right along. Here's my top 25 here so far this year. Elson, what do you think? There's a ton of movement, as you can tell. Only one team stayed put, but we had a wild week, a week that
It was
didn't present
insane.
didn't present many games coming in that were very intriguing, but resulted in a plenty of upsets. Elson, give me some feedback on the top 25.
So I like that you have Texas at number one. I would personally switch Ohio State and Oregon. Maybe that's just because I do give Ohio State in the advantage in the matchup that we'll talk about pretty quick. Ranking Alabama had to be a tall task. What was your thought process for that one? Same with Tennessee.
Yeah, so I kind of got these phased up. Right now, my top 5 teams are all undefeated, and then it goes into the next tier where it's like Bama through A&M, about all one-loss teams. I do that, and then I compare the quality wins for each of these teams. So, um, my number one, Texas doesn't really go according to that, but I had to rank Texas number one. But with their only win being Michigan, but actually Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State, to me, they've got each of them have 2 quality wins this season. Um, Oregon's being against Boise State and Michigan State. Penn State's being against West Virginia and Illinois, and then Ohio State's being against Michigan State and Iowa. And so I essentially just ranked those 3 quality opponents and put them in that order. I think that's something that, instead of looking at the politics of college football, like I feel like some of the AP polls and some of those voters do, just because they're like, oh, Ohio State, I think Ohio State's better. Instead of looking at the teams that they've played so far, what have they shown? I think that's interesting. Then the next year, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and you can throw Notre Dame and Texas A&M in there, but Bama, Tennessee, and Georgia are the 3 big concerns. Obviously, Alabama lost to Vandy. Georgia lost to Alabama, so Alabama has to be above Georgia. That's one thing that's super important. And then Tennessee lost to Arkansas. So then from there, it's just kind of looking at quality wins. So Bama has Wisconsin and Georgia. Georgia has Clemson. And then Tennessee has NC State and Oklahoma. So it's just kind of it's just a couple stages. You're looking at, okay, what's their overall record, and then quality wins, quality losses, and comparing those to try and officially determine. Like Notre Dame is one above Texas A&M just because they've already beat them this year. So just little things like that you kind of just try and point out, instead of looking at like, okay, Ohio State, yep, they probably should be 2, and then we'll move Penn State. Just a little, some of the politics in college football I don't look at. I try to look at what the teams have put on the field.
I appreciate the objectivity. The one team that I think is rated too high, and I get why you've got them ranked here because they are still sitting at 4-1. That's Missouri. I thought that they have a lot to prove left this season. They haven't looked like the team we necessarily expected, and I think it's great that you've got Texas A&M above them, but I think we're still looking for some quality outings for Missouri. They've got Alabama pretty soon, and that is going to be a huge game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, what a year in college football it's going to be. We have the parity of the game in college football. Usually we have these powerhouses that go undefeated all year, and then they get into the top 4 of the college football playoff. Usually you have that one kind of Cinderella team that surprises you. We got a brand new playoff style, 12 teams. It's wide open. Some random teams going to make it, Boise State's not really random this year, but it's just a wide open. We're going to see 2 lost teams in the college football playoffs this year, and I'm here for it. I think it's much needed. When you look at like the NFL, how many teams make the playoffs in that? 14?
Believe so.
14 teams, so almost half of the league in the NFL. Not quite, but almost make the playoffs. We're talking a league that has over 100 teams. I don't even know the exact number, but they used to only
Like
allow
134.
134
It's
Division
quite a
One
few.
FBS teams, a lot, and we only allow 4 teams to make a playoff. I think even 12's not enough, but I think 12 is a really good spot to be. this is going to be a fun finish. We have tons of great matchups left. I'm here for it. This is going to be great.
It feels like the season is just heating up every week. I mean, we had all those upsets last week. That was pure, sheer college football insanity. And then we've got some marquee matchups this week that are going to be a ton of fun to cover. And I know that this is the prediction episode and not the recap episode, but you got to put some respect on Vandy and Diego Pavia. What a game.
Absolutely, that was a whole lot of fun. I see that some of the memorabilia from that game is being auctioned off, and that bad day to be a goalpost in that stadium as well. Um, Couple notable things. Indiana's a team that's been rising up a lot of, including the AP and coaches polls, a lot of top 25s. I have them at ranked 29 for me. They haven't played anybody quite yet. I think they're going to. They're going to get to that point. But my 26th ranked team is Navy. They're a fun team to watch. They got a quality win against Memphis. I think that they're going to continue to roll. Navy, it's just awesome to see a team like Navy. Army's ranked 30th. Good teams like that, good for the country that they're going to be good enough to be in the top 25. That's just good for football.
Army can run the football. We found that out here at the University of Tulsa last week.
There you go. Was that in Tulsa?
Unfortunately, yeah, it was. It was a nice hot day, got sunburned. Good
There you go.
experience all around.
Yeah, there you go. Let's preview some of our week 7 games here, Elson. Let's start with the what we learned is the Red River rivalry. That is a mouthful. Whoever came up with that is not fair.
That one's
But
tough.
my number 1 team, Texas, taking on number 19 Oklahoma. 2:30 kick on ABC. Elson, let's talk about the Red River rivalry.
Quinn Ewers is back, baby, and Texas gets what, like 5% better because Arch Manning is just a baller. But
Yeah.
I do think it matters because I think behind a great offensive line, he is going to cook OU secondary if the pressure can't get home. And then on the other side of the ball, Texas also plays great defense. I think what makes them number one, and maybe even, we'll touch on this later, maybe even in their own tier a little bit, is they are complete on both sides of the ball. They defend the run and the pass well. And Oklahoma's had some quarterback controversy, benching their underclassman starter and sticking Michael Hawkins in there, who brings a little bit more as a rusher. I don't know. I think it's really going to be an uphill battle for Oklahoma, and I do have Texas by multiple scores.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is really going to struggle. I'm excited to watch Texas, specifically Quinn Ewers, play against a good team. When he played against Michigan, that was just so fun to watch. He was very methodical, very magical in that game. I'm excited to watch him play another quality opponent in Oklahoma and see how he does. I think this is a guy that deserves the QB1 spot. I'm not sure where you have him in your current scouting update, but I think Quinn Ewers continues to prove it. I think it'll be interesting to see how he rebounds from this injury. Interested to see if he's 100%. What kind of injury was it again?
It was lower body, wasn't it? Was it like ankle? I might be wrong about that. I thought it was lower body.
I actually don't know off the top of my head, but it'd be interesting to see if it, depending on where the injury is, if there's a brace or something that's going to hinder a performance from him. It'll be interesting to see how that works, but I'm excited to watch Quinn Ewers against another quality opponent. Should be a fun one.
This is his NFL tape. These are the games that you're going to be watching on a scouting report. I want to see him unlock that deep ball.
Absolutely. It'll be a lot of fun. Big Ten game, number 4, Penn State, taking on USC. A lot of people don't have – I have them ranked, but they dropped out of a lot of rankings. It's crazy. This is the flip side of that Badger game. If the Badgers beat them, they're 2-3 team. They're not even 500, which is absolutely absurd to me. That's another 2:30 kickover on CBS. Elson, I don't know if you've caught, like the Badgers played the 2:30 CBS game. That used to be a SEC game. They got a pretty good crew. I like the crew that CBS presents. I'm not 100% sure their names, but they've been doing it a long time. I like the 2:30 CBS Big Ten game, and I'm here for that one.
I agree with that. As for Penn State versus USC, I think this is a major trap game for Penn State. I definitely think they're the better team, but for a conference game, this is one heck of a road trip all the way across the country, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to play a factor. However, I think the key here for the Nittany Lions is just going to be staying on schedule. You're getting Nick Singleton back. Stick to the script that's made you a top 5 team in the world of college football, and they play great defense. Miller Moss is going to be under constant pressure behind an offensive line that's even worse than what Caleb was playing behind last year. I think Penn State wins this one pretty soundly.
Massive game. This one could live up to the Bama Georgia hype. Ohio State taking on Oregon. This is an NBC broadcast with the Big Ten primetime. Both undefeated teams. Both teams trying to prove that they're right there next to Texas at the top of the country. Elson, massive game. I'm pumped for this one.
Is this the battle for the number one spot in your power rankings with the ultimate quality win?
I don't know. I think that's difficult. I think a team like Texas, if they beat Oklahoma, they're going to be gaining another quality win. Both Oregon. It depends on how they win. If it's a blowout win, one way or the other, or if one team looks just outstanding, I mean, the Ohio State and Oregon, whoever wins this game will have 3 quality wins. Texas will only have 2. It's possible that they could take over the number 1 spot. We'll see. But I'm excited for this one. This game, I was excited about Alabama, Georgia. Like I made it a priority to watch that game. I'm very happy I did. But this one's right there with that your game of the year.
I'm looking forward to this one too. Ultimately, I think that Ohio State's going to be able to just kind of out physical the Ducks defensive line. I think Judkins is going to be carrying the rock 20, 25 times. They're going to get the ball to Travion Henderson as well. And Oregon's going to counter with some of their explosive playmakers, but the Buckeyes also know how to keep the lid on defensively. I think that Ohio State's going to set the tone, and I think they're going to win by a score.
Ole Miss, a team that's kind of slid after their loss to Kentucky. They're taking on an LSU team who they got that loss out of the way early. They've been winning some games recently. This is going to be a fun one to watch. What do you got here?
This one has some really fun playoff implications. I think we're looking at 2 big-time one-loss programs. Someone's got to walk out of here the loser, and they're not eliminated from the playoff hunt, but they pretty much got to run the table. And I think both of these teams have 2 more ranked opponents, so it's going to be an uphill battle to make the playoffs for whoever loses this. As for what to watch for on the field, Jackson Dart has been playing great football. The one thing that's been missing, and also as an NFL evaluator, the one thing that I'm really looking for is the deep ball. LSU's secondary is not it this year. And if Jackson Dart can be bombing it downfield, hitting Trey Harris right in the breadbasket, that would be huge. On the other end of this one, Garrett Nussmeier's got to get the ball out really quick because Ole Miss knows how to rush the passer. I do have LSU by about a score. And when I say a score in these, I mean like 5 to 8 points. I think that Ole Miss is going to win it pretty soundly and possibly make a real statement.
Does Jackson Dart pose any character issues in draft scouting?
I have not read that he has character issues, but something might have come up. Nothing came up when I was doing my summer scouting background check on him.
Okay. I mean, I don't think that there's necessarily. I know I get like a very cocky vibe from him, but I also think he's a very competitor, and I think that his arrogance plays into that factor a little bit as well. I don't know. I just didn't know. I was intrigued to see. Like, I don't have really any issues. I think he's a really good player. I bought into his hype. I still do. But I just didn't know if you had anything that I didn't know
Well,
in his scouting.
I like you bringing that up because I think that arrogance that can manifest from some quarterbacks, sometimes it crosses a line. A player that Ole Miss fans will be familiar with, where I kind of picked up on that tendency, was Matt Corral. And I was kind of doubting myself, like, okay, he doesn't have a whole lot of reported stuff, but I don't know. There was some body language stuff on the field. I remember one time he absolutely ran over a ref who didn't know he had the ball, like smashed this guy into the ground, and then he like walked over him and went to celebrate with his teammates. And soon the reports are he's not even showing up to practices after he falls to the 3rd round. So I don't have anything to say about Dart, but that would be an interesting thing to look into.
Number 11, Iowa State, looking to continue to roll against Pat McAfee's West Virginia Mountaineers. Primetime game, Fox, 7 p.m. kick. This is going to be a fun one.
This is a good 3-2 West Virginia team. Their 2 losses, which Penn State, I think they lost pretty handily, but Pitt was close. They had that game in hand. They're both undefeated, so they turn one of those games into a win. You're looking at a 4-1 team, probably a ranked team, and their offensive line is really, really good. What I'm looking for is for them to really take advantage of a not good Iowa State defense, jump ahead early with the run game. They have a 3-deep backfield with C.J. Donaldson. Garrett Green, the quarterback, knows how to run. And then Iowa State's going to have to counter by throwing the ball a lot, I think. And they could. The WVU secondaries had some issues. Rocco Becht playing good football. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Null have been lighting it up, probably to top 10 to 15 wide receivers in the country, at least in college football right now. So I'm actually, and I went back and forth on this. I'm going to take WVU to get it done at home.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun one.
Close game. Close
Yeah,
game.
that's a fun take. I'm excited to watch that game as well. Number 18, Kansas State taking on Colorado. That's going to be a fun Big 12 matchup as well. This is the nightcap on ESPN. Elson, does Shedeur Sanders get it done?
This is two good 4-1 teams looking to make a statement. Colorado's getting really close to the top 25 contention. Kansas State faced a little bit of adversity recently. Here's what worries me, because my first impression was actually I was going to get a little sneaky and pick Colorado. K-State knows how to run the ball, and I don't think Colorado is going to be able to stop it. And then we're going to see Shedeur Sanders holding the ball for really long periods of time, and I think they're going to take a lot of crucial sacks. So that's why I've got Kansas State winning this one on the road.
I think
Another close game, though. I think it's going to be within probably 3 or so.
These 4-1 teams are both very, very similar. Even though Kansas State's ranked 18th, this is a Kansas State team that's kind of been on the downhill slide. They went up, and then now they're kind of going back down. This is a Colorado team that's really been only going up. And so this is going to be kind of a fun team. I think both of these teams are very, very similar, despite the number that's in front of KSU's their name. This is going to be a fun game to watch, no doubt about it. Also, that's always fantastic stuff, as always. Let's get into some NFL. We got little power rankings from the from the Fantasy Football League. Elson, what are your thoughts on this? I found this in the monthly recap. I don't know if you were able to catch eyes on this, but this is the standings they gave. Aaron Benchall 4-1, but he top 5. But a couple
I'm
3
on
and 2
my way
teams.
up. I'm happy with where I'm sitting right now after an 0-2 start to the season. My guys are seasoned. We know how to come back from adversity. I'm loving where my team is at.
Yeah, fun note about Aaron Benchall. With sports, Travis Wilson, I believe is his name. He put out an X, like a tweet or whatever you want to call it, and said, "Watch out for Monroe's freshman defensive end Aaron Benchall, 7.5 sacks so far this year," and then noted like some of his older siblings, whatever. He's a senior, Mr. Wilson. He's a senior, and a little disappointing in that one. The comments, I think, got to him on that. But Aaron Benchall having a career year. I think he's like top 5 in the state right now in sacks. He's going crazy. People are saying he's a future Badger. Look at his siblings. Aaron Benchall, have a year, AB. Have a year.
Light it up, freshman.
Yeah, you keep rocking and rolling. 3 more years for him. I mean, he could be going to Bama.
We'll
If
take
he's
that.
only a freshman. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But sitting 8th right now. A couple back-to-back losses for me. I had a good start, kind of reeling a little bit. I don't hate the team. The quarterback situation's weak. Andy Dalton, I thought might be the solution. He's not quite getting the job done. I got Andy Dalton and Bo Nix to select from right now, and there's not any other better options. I've been trying to trade for a quarterback, but I can't hurt the rest of the roster because it's pretty good. It's been pretty good for me so far. But getting 3 points out of my quarterback last week, that's gonna be pretty hard to win with.
Buffalo Bills offense all the way. I think I pulled Kareem Hunt off waivers in this league, so that's going to be real big for me.
That's huge. Whenever you find a good waiver pickup in a 16-man league, there's nothing better than that feeling right there. That's absolutely massive. Let's do this thing. Week 6 preview. Thursday night football. This is a massive game tomorrow. 49ers, Seahawks. 49ers team better than their record shows. Seahawks team probably better than their record shows too. Very similar. What is this? An NFC West showdown?
Yes.
This is gonna be a fun game. Usually these Thursday night games are a way to give bad teams a primetime spot, but this is a big game.
This is not one of those Thursday night games. We've really had some entertaining Thursday night matchups.
Yeah.
And I think that trend is going to continue. This is a major NFC West prove-it game for both of these teams because the 49ers, like you said, they are better than the record. But at some point, you got to learn how to ice games and win in the final 5 minutes, get across the finish line. We saw them blow it against the Cardinals, right, last week because they didn't have their kicker.
Yep.
He
Yep.
got injured mid-game. That made things complicated. As far as what the Niners have actually been doing, it's exactly what you'd expect. They're first in time of possession, second in yards, second in first downs, fourth in scoring drive percentage. They're doing their thing, and they've got the players to control any game, but they have been killed by their 8 turnovers, which includes 4 lost fumbles, so there's a fluky element there. I think the biggest thing here is, can a Seahawks run D that's not very good, can they make the 49ers a little bit uncomfortable? Can they get Brock Purdy to maybe misplace a couple passes? Because he's been sharp. Because if the 49ers just tell Jordan Mason, do your thing, but don't fumble the football, I think that they're going to be majorly in business. On the Seattle offensive end, they need to run the football more. It's been a major issue for them because they've got Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, 2 efficient running backs, but they are last in attempts this year. And not only does that hurt with sustaining drives, but then you've got Geno dropping back to pass 50 times a game, not a lot of play action. Nick Bosa is going to eat against a Seahawks offensive line that's missing some dudes. That's what I'm most worried about for Seattle.
Yeah, I think this is a 49ers team that's looking to kind of get back in that win column. It's not been their year record wise. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey hurts, and there's still a big question mark on his return and what that looks like. This is a Seahawks team under new head coach Mike McDonald, I think is his name. Or
Yep.
Yep. Okay. He's been doing a great job as well. Geno Smith has proven that he's an absolute dog. He knows how to play ball. He still can do it. San Francisco favored in this one, Thursday Night Football. We're going to make our Sunday picks as we go, Elson. I think that's fair. A new change in our Sunday picks game,
I
which
like
let's
it.
just note that scoreboard right now, 30-18, looking good for me, myself.
Don't like
Elson,
that.
looking to
Don't
get
like
back
that
in the win
scoreboard.
column. Yeah.
Switch those numbers around. We know that's how they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Probably should be like that, I guess. Luck happens. I mean, this is the parity of the NFL this year, anybody's game right now. But Thursday night football games are going to be double points for us instead of the Monday night games. A little bit of a change here. But Thursday night, San Francisco favored by 3.5. Elson, who are you going to take?
Ethan, you're off to a very solid start to the season. I got to start getting aggressive. I'm going to take the Seahawks. Let the record show. I do think the 49ers win, but weird stuff happens, night games in the NFC West. So I'll take the Seahawks to potentially pull off the upset with the underdog boost.
This is usually an opportunity where I'm all over the Seahawks, a home team that's underdogs. They have a better record. All signs point to take the Seahawks, but there's just something telling me just to take the 49ers. I think the 49ers get right in this game. They are not a 2-3 team, and I don't think that they like anything about that. I'm going to take San Francisco. I don't know if this is the right pick or not, but that's where I'm gonna look in this one. It's an intriguing one, no doubt about it, though.
They're going to be playing with attitude, and I think that is really valuable.
Yeah. A quick note, a game that's not on our Sunday picks. London game, Jacksonville taking on the Bears. Caleb Williams coming into his own, had a really good 300-plus yard week. Jacksonville gets their first win last week. Jaguars' second home is London. Quick note on the London game. What do you got?
It feels like Caleb Williams has finally arrived. Everybody was freaking out about how he was missing a couple of throws early in his career. Well, sure, Caleb Williams is great, a great prospect, but still a rookie QB. It's going to take a little bit of time. He's been clearly on an upward trajectory since then, and I think he's in good position to just torch a really bad Jags defense. As for the Jags, it's nice that they got their first win. It's a fun storyline that they always got the Colts number, but this is a very legit Bears defense. I know weird stuff happens in London, but I'm going to side with the Bears.
There you go. Detroit favored by 3.5 against the home team Dallas Cowboys. Last time this happened, it was pretty disappointing for the opponent. Just so rude for the Cowboys to be not favored in this game at home. Cowboys have not won a game at home yet all year long, but the Lions look to come in, continue to ride. We all know what happened last time the Detroit Lions came to town. But Elson, what do you see in this game and make your pick?
I think the Lions are just going to go in knowing what they want to do coming out of the bye week. They want to beat Dallas up. I think you would agree is not a very good run defense. Am I wrong about that?
The Cowboys run defense?
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, it's definitely not been where it wants to be, but it's a trend. It's trending in the right direction.
They've given up 8 touchdowns, which against Detroit, which is a team that knows how to capitalize on good field position, stay ahead of the chains. That's too many, and it feels like the Cowboys D is kind of running out of players. As far as I know, it doesn't look like Micah Parsons is going to play. And is that right?
He's a week to week kind of guy right now. I think he's trying his best to play. Uh, this is, I mean, it's definitely depleted. The injury bug has hit Dallas, but we'll see for sure. No
They
Demarcus
need to get their
Lawrence.
guys back defensively, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
my big question here, and I think that the Cowboys' key to victory, spoiler alert, I am going to pick against them, would be Jared Goff coming out of the bye and looking more like the player he was for the first 3 weeks, not very sharp, versus the player he was heading into the bye, where he did have his best game of the season. Dallas's defense, it has a couple dudes that can force turnovers, but I don't see him reverting and throwing picks. As for the Cowboys, I think this is another game where the run game is going to be a non-factor. I don't think they're going to be able to keep pace with Detroit. I think it's going to be Dak dropping back 45 or so times and trying to pepper CD with targets. And it's just hard to live that way, especially when you've got Aiden Hutchinson potentially lining up on Tyler Guyton. Don't love that matchup.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game. I think the Cowboys, a team, a big win for them last week against a pretty good Steelers team. They welcome in another good team. This is a tough season or a tough schedule for the Cowboys this year. Um, a depleted defense, no Brandon Cooks on offense. We saw Jalen Tolbert emergence. A lot of players actually. It seems like it was kind of a preseason. The Cowboys welcome in like a pretty good sized handful, maybe two handfuls worth of practice squad and free agents workouts. So
Just too
uh,
many backups to consistently play good football.
yeah, it's tough. But I think I mentioned this last week, and I think this is a bit intriguing. Is the Cowboys without Micah Parsons and Demarcus Lawrence, they play a little bit more of a different game plan. We kind of talked about with Jordan Love and Malik Willis. The game plan is different without your stars, and it almost worked into the favor because the Cowboys were going down this trap where it wasn't working out for them. They wanted to unleash the dogs, then they couldn't stop the run. It just wasn't working out for them defensively. And I'm by no means a defensive expert, but it seemed like uh, things were better in that game. I thought the defense played outstanding. Definitely exceeded expectations against the Steelers, given the depleted defense. But we see this a lot. Teams struggle to survive in that next game after a difficult wear and tear game the week before. We've seen that both at college and in the NFL. This is going to be a tough game for the Cowboys to win. I'm personally taking the Cowboys. There's no doubt in my mind. But you mentioned you might not be yourself.
I will take the Lions. I think there's a good chance that the Cowboys will be in it because the Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb connection is very legit. Ferguson's been very good. And maybe you would disagree with this, but it feels like Brandon Cooks hadn't been the presence that the Cowboys were expecting. And then Jalen Tolbert, young player, goes out there kind of hungry, has a great game. I'm not sure how much of a downgrade that is.
No, I love Jalen Tolbert. It's just the issue of that third spot. Jalen Brooks is the guy who's a speed threat. He's a very good young player. Doesn't quite get the opportunities all the time. I think it'd be interesting. I think the Cowboys could possibly go out and get another receiver, but Jalen Tolbert's a good ball player. I'm excited for that. Let's keep her moving, Elson. Washington and Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 6.5. This Washington team though is rolling.
I think this is the game of the week. There isn't like a clear star power. This is the one you got to watch game this week. But watching potentially the two best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL square off is always going to be fun. I think that the Ravens are going to blow the doors off a Commanders defense that hasn't had to go up against a whole lot of great teams. And when they have gone up against a team like the Bengals just got theirs all night. Here's some interesting stats about the Ravens offense. Second in points for, first in total yardage, first in first downs, first in net yards per attempt, first in yards per carry, and they're fourth in turnovers, like how often they turn the ball over. So they're holding on to the ball as well with one of the strongest schedules in the league. It feels like they figured out what they want to do with that thunder and lightning combination of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And I just don't think there's anything the Commanders can do to stop that. They're second to last in yards per carry allowed. But what Jaden Daniels is doing is pretty damn special, especially for a rookie QB. Commanders are first in points for per game, and it doesn't show any signs of letting up. Now, we've all watched Jaden Daniels, right? We've seen him scramble. We've seen him throw the deep ball. I think it's worth noting that that was against a Bengals defense with zero pass rush, a Cardinals defense with zero pass rush and really zero anything, and then a Browns D that's good on paper, but I don't even want to get into what's happening in Cleveland. Nobody's playing up to their potential there. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Jaden Daniels can do against a good, well-coached defense, especially because the Baltimore Ravens can stop the run. And the Commanders really like to lean into the run to take something off of Jaden Daniels' plate. I don't know. This is like the prove-it game for Jaden Daniels in my mind. If he goes out there and throws for 300 yards and completes 70% of his passes and even keeps it close, he is officially the real deal in my mind. What do you have?
This is a tough one. I think this is a game where the Baltimore's just kind of own up on a young team, but it almost seems like Washington just finds ways to win these games. 6.5's a lot of points. It's not really. I'm not like I'm taking the points. It's just over or underdog, overdog. But I think I got to go Buffalo or Baltimore here. I think they're just this is a team. They're veteran. They're a team that's kind of rolling right now. I think that this is a team they just kind of take advantage of against a young squad. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one.
Could be kind of a welcome to the NFL moment that we've been expecting Jaden Daniels to have at some point. A little spoiler alert from my Instagram predictions. I do have the Commanders to cover, but I'm going to take the Ravens to win. I think they get it done.
Yeah, this could be a massive game for the career of Jane Daniels, no doubt about it. At least for that Rookie of the Year candidate as well. We talked about this game. Let's just make the picks. Arizona taking on the Packers, who are favored by 5. Who are you taking?
I don't love it. I think Green Bay is going to win, but I am going to take Arizona with the underdog bonus.
Yeah, there you go. I think I'm also going to join you with Arizona. I think this is a team. They got a big win against the 49ers last week, a Packers team that I think is still kind of struggling. It's going to be a battle of the offenses, and it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. I'm going to take Arizona, though, and this one is an underdog pick. This is actually a Monday night game. Buffalo taking on the Jets, a new Jets team without a Robert Saleh at head coach. Buffalo favored by 2.5. I'm sure this line probably has changed a little bit, but who are you going to take in this one?
This is going to tell us a ton about both teams. As for the Bills, we know Josh Allen's Josh Allen, but I think this Jets secondary is just going to be plastered all over the Bills wide receivers. I don't think they have a guy who can separate, so they're going to have to lean into James Cook in the run game. I think that's going to be huge for them. And for the Jets, I think whether or not the Jets win this game is going to be about how the locker room feels about the departure of Robert Saleh, who wasn't just fired, but was escorted from the building by security, which is a whole nother level of extra. And the locker room, I think, is in a bad place with Hassan Reddick, with Aaron Rodgers and his guys and his expectations and the way he wants this offense to be timed up. I don't know. We just haven't seen it. We haven't seen him be explosive. And I don't feel great about it. I think the Bills are going to win. However, I am going to take the Jets with the underdog bonus. Man, this one was tough. I went back and forth.
Yeah, this is a tough one too. I think the script writers would have their hands all over this one with a head coach early season firing. I think the Jets could get like a nice little bounce back win. It's Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers does strive on Monday Night Football, I would say. A Buffalo Bills team where Josh Allen went 9 for 30, which is absurd.
He just didn't have anyone open.
He came back into the game after a pretty clear head injury, and I'm very disappointed that they allowed him to do that. I haven't heard anything about him not playing this week, so it seems like he's all right, which is miraculous. I don't know if you saw the clip of his head hitting the turf, but man, that looked like whiplash almost. It was horrible.
Those head snaps back into the turf injuries, those are unpleasant to watch.
Yeah, those are. If there was a way to prevent those like with a real change, it's just you can't. But if there was a way, that would definitely be necessary. But this is
QB's
a
got
really tough one for me
cowboy
too.
colors.
Yeah, this is a real tough one for me too. I think that the Bills, the team, they're coming into this game favored. I think they are the better team. but the Jets are not that far off. They're the underdog. I'm intrigued to take the underdog selection. I think I'm going to. I'm going to play a matchup here. I think I don't want if this game were to hit, I don't want that spread to be different. I think I'm going to take the Jets in this one. I don't know if that's necessarily a fair pick, but it's hard. I mean, usually, and like this is another situation right here where the Jets are underdog team playing at home, primetime with Aaron Rodgers. It's pretty hard to bet against that. Uh, but this is a
Josh
Buffalo
Allen
Bills
makes
team
a
with
couple
Josh Allen.
mistakes, points off turnovers.
I mean, you
I
never
think we're
know.
going to be right in it.
Yeah, it's gonna be lots of fun games to watch. All of these games, and there's other games as well. This is gonna be a fun weekend of NFL football for sure, and we got a handful of games that we can watch in college football. It's gonna be super fun. It's gonna be a good weekend. I'm super excited. Hey, thanks for joining us though for uh our Wednesday preview episode. Elson, any last minute comments, thoughts, or concerns before we knock her out of here?
Please wish me luck on the midterms. I'm
There
going
you
to
go.
need it.
Wishing Elson Gratz luck on his midterms. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 46 of the River Podcast. We'll be back Monday for a recap of this excellent sports weekend. I'm Ethan Rosenstill. That's Elson Gratz. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you Monday.
So this is where it